Welcome back, everyone. This week, we're going to do a little bit more in Excel, learn a little bit more about doing some descriptive analysis in Excel for the different variable levels. This is your classroom example. The data that we're using for the classroom example consists of 13 subjects. We have variables for their age, their marital status, their gender, their residence, their undergraduate degree, their employment status, their GRE score, and their hours spent reading each week. So let's look at the level of their variables because this is important when we're learning to do statistical analysis. Age is at a interval ratio level. The number means the number. Marital status is at a nominal level. It's got names for married, divorced, single. So we didn't ask them how many years they were married or how many years they were divorced. We just asked them their status. This is nominal. Gender is nominal. It's just the name of the category. Residence is nominal. It's just the name of the category. Their undergraduate degree, again, is nominal. It's just the name of the category. Their employment status, same thing, nominal. It's just the name of the category. The GRE score, again, this is interval ratio because it is a number, and the number means the number. And the hours spent reading each week is interval ratio. So the different types of statistics we can do based on these levels, that's what we're going to look at today. None of these are ordinal. We have nominal and we have interval ratio. So none of these are ordinal. We'll look at ordinal later, but oftentimes you handle ordinal level data the same way you handle nominal level data. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at analysis for my interval ratio level data, okay? Because what I want to do, the first thing I want to do is descriptive analysis, and I want to get a picture and an understanding of my sample population based on the different variables I'm going to be measuring or being analyzing. So I've got age, okay? So I'm going to go up here, and up at the top, of course, is your menu. I'm under the Data tab. Over here to the side, I've got my Data Analysis. You should have installed your Data Analysis Tool Pack in week 1 because that's what you're going to need that. So if you haven't, go back, get the instructions to do that, and install your Data Analysis Tool Pack. Occasionally, you have to reinstall it. Sometimes Excel will uninstall it for various reasons. You'll open it up and it's not there anymore. But you can go back and you can reinstall it. Just do the add-ins and install the Data Analysis Tool Pack. So I'm going to click on my Data Analysis Tool Pack and my window comes up. So what do I want to do? I want to do Descriptive Statistics. This is a very, very, very important distinction when we're doing analysis within Excel. Remember, we have the two different categories of statistics that we use to do analysis. We have descriptive statistics, where we conduct analysis for the measures of central tendency, the variances, the variability of it, to get a picture of our sample, okay? And then we have inferential statistics, where we learn to start looking at relationships. In Excel, the title Descriptive Statistics is the statistical analysis only for interval ratio level data. So I'm going to try to consistently use the term descriptive analysis when I'm referencing what you need to be doing with your sample data versus conducting descriptive statistics, which is an actual title of a statistical action within Excel. So what we're going to do for our age category is we're going to do descriptive statistics. It does the statistical calculation for variables that are at the interval ratio level. So I click on descriptive statistics and I say, okay, my input range right here, okay, I click the arrow over to the right and then I go over here and I highlight all the way down. My input range is from cell A2 through cell A15 because that's all the ages. Click on my arrow and it comes back up. Then I have to go down here to the output range. The default in Excel is to put this data on a new worksheet, but you don't want to do that. You want to click on output range. When you click on the output range, it's going to say, where do you want to put this? So you click on your arrow over here and you can select just 2 cells. That's all you have to select is 2 cells by each other. Okay. Click on your arrow back. I now have my input range. I now have my output range. Now I want summary statistics. You've got to be sure and click summary statistics right there. Okay. If you want to include labels, then you can capture labels and you can capture age up here at the top. And then if you include age, when you're pulling that into your input range, you can include labels. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. So I've got my input range, my output range. I'm asking for summary statistics. So I'm telling Excel, I want you to give me summary statistics for all the data in these categories, A2 through A15. And I'm going to hit OK. And when I hit OK, this right here comes up. Okay, and it says column 1. If I had included the age label at the top of it, could have included label and it would have said that. I'll do that on the next one so you can see how that looks. So I'm going to say age right here so that I know what it is. And again, right here, I'm going to need to format because, so I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to home. I'm going to go to format, auto format with. You can also click on the actual cell and it'll format it there. That's just kind of a habit I do. The default for numbers in Excel gives you five spaces after your period there, so that it's like 32.64286%. So it's important to go in and change those and make it just 2 points after your decimal. So right here, I'm going to just highlight these. I'm going to just right click. You can right click or you can do the format at the top. I'm going to format my cells. I'm going to go to my number, and I just want my number to have 2 decimal places afterwards, and I'm going to say OK. So you have a median and a mode, and you're including 2 decimal places, but that's all right also. So here I can look and I can say my age for my sample population is, there's a mean of 32.64 years, okay? Anytime I report the mean, I have to report my standard deviation. So my standard deviation is 13 years. So I have a mean of 32.64 years and a standard deviation of 13 years. I have a minimum age of 21 and a maximum age of 65, okay? And then I have a median age of 27. And remember, median means it's the middle point. So half of them are over 27, half of them are under 27. And I have a mode of 25. So that means the people in my sample, the most of them are age 25. So this gives me the descriptive statistics that are important for me to get a good understanding of what my sample population looks like in terms of age. And these are the areas that I'm concerned with. And again, when you always report the mean and the standard deviation together when you do your results. I'm going to provide you with an example of how to report your results so that you'll see that. I have a count of 14, so there's actually 14 total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that's right. So I have a count of 14. The sum, that's actually the total of all your ages together, and that would not be an appropriate statistic to use here. So we just ignore it, okay? For this particular output, the range, it tells us the range is 44 years. That's not really what we're interested in unless we have some skewness. We're going to talk about that in future weeks. So what we're interested in is the minimum and the maximum range, okay? And we're interested in the mean, the standard deviation, the median, and the mode. We don't necessarily report the median and the mode if we're using the mean and standard deviation to report. If we actually have a mean that's not representative, meaning that somebody, say 2 people in our sample were 75, it's going to actually skew our mean towards the higher area because that's what happens with averages. And so we may choose to report the median instead of the mean. We're going to practice and work through all of that, but just know you don't use every single thing that is in the output. You pick out what is important for you. Now, just as an example, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to include the age on this, the age category, so you can see how the program will put the labels in there for you. So I'm going to go back up to my data tab. I'm going to come over here to my data analysis. I'm going to make sure my descriptive statistics is on. I'm going to hit that OK. I'm going to redo my input range because I want to capture age at the top. So now I capture the whole column. And then I'm going to say labels in the first row. My output range, I need to let it know it's a different range. So I'm going to highlight those 2 squares, those 2 cells together. And my summary statistics is still clicked. So there we go. So see, it will put the age up there for you if you choose to have it do that. And I have my same output. I'm going to come back. I'm going to go back to this. And I'm going to make sure that my numbers are only 2 decimals. Okay, so I have the same thing with and without the label. It's however you choose to do it. If for any reason you forget to include the label, because usually that's what I do, I just forget to include the label, you can always go back and add it yourself. Or if you remember, you can include the label and it'll label your table so you'll remember what your data is. So as an example, I'm just going to take this off so that I can go ahead and let me get that. It always puts a border around your table so you can undo that. So as an example, I'm going to do the rest of this. I'm going to do the GRE score and the hours spent reading each week the same way I did age. So let me go to my data analysis, my descriptive statistics. I'm going to grab a different input range now. So I'm going to grab the GRE score. Okay, I'm going to grab a different output range. So I'm going to highlight those 2 cells right there together. My summary statistics is still clicked. My labels in first row is still clicked, and I had included the GRE on that. So I'm going to click OK, and bam, there you go. I've got my GRE score. Let me go back and let me format my cells to make sure my number only has 2 in it. The mean, the median, the mode, the standard deviation, right there. The minimum and the maximum. Okay. My count's correct, so I captured everybody in there. So the GRE scores for the individuals in this sample, we have a mean of 288.93 with a standard deviation of 24.78 points. We have a median of 300, which means 50% score above it, 50% score below that. We have the mode of 309, which means most score within that area. And the range from 225 to 309. So 309 is our highest area. And what that tells us is we actually, if the mode is 309, then the majority of our individuals are scoring at the highest possible area. So that tells us a little bit about the GRE score for our sample population. So now let's do hours spent reading each week. Now, if you'll see, this is a pretty big title, so probably I'm not going to ask Excel to include it. I'm going to run my table, and then I'm just going to say hours reading. So I'm going to shorten my title on my particular table. So let's go back to your data. Let's go to your data analysis, your descriptive statistics. You're going to click OK. I'm going to change my input range to right here. So I start at 1 and then I just drag down on that to get my input range. Then I'm going to unclick labels in first row because I'm not including that. I'm going to go to my output range. I want it to come right here. I'm going to click OK. Bam, there you go. So right here, I'm just going to change this to hours reading. Got that. And then that gets me what I need there. Let's get rid of all these extra decimal places. Okay, so now I have mean. I have median mode, my standard deviation. I have a minimum and a maximum. And I have 14, so I've got everybody included. So the mean hours spent reading in my sample population is 4.64 each week. The median is 4, the mode is 4, and the standard deviation is 2.6 hours. Then I have a minimum from 1 to 10. So the minimum hours read was 1, the maximum hours read was 10 in my sample population. That right there is the descriptive analysis for all the data that I have that is interval ratio level. Fairly easy to do in Excel. You just use your data, you just use your data analysis, and you use your descriptive statistics. Okay? So now I want to do a descriptive analysis of my nominal level variables. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different in terms of how we're going to do that. So let's start with our marital status. In our marital status, we have what? We have divorced, married, single, and widowed. So right down here below this, or wherever I want my output to be, the output for my data analysis is where I would start. So right here, I'm just going to skip down a few lines, and I'm going to start. So I'm going to type the word divorced. I'm going to type the word married. I'm going to type the word single. And then I'm going to type the word widow. Right next to these, so right here next to divorce, I'm going to highlight this cell. I'm going to go to the top, and I'm going to go to my formula tab. Instead of my data tab, I'm going to my formula tab, okay? And over here where it says more functions, this is where you're going to see your statistical analysis functions. The math and trig functions, you're going to have some basic math and trig, addition, subtraction, you have different things there. The one we use most is more functions. And at the top, when you click on more functions, you have this window that comes up. So you have the statistical, engineering, cube, information, all of that. We want the statistical. So if you just highlight the statistical, then all of the statistical options come up under here. So you highlight statistical, and then just move your cursor over here, and you can see we have average, and we have chi-square. We have all of these that we're going to look through a lot of these and practice a lot of these over this semester. But right now, what we're interested in is all the way right here. We're interested in this that says count if. Okay? Count if counts the cells in a range when we give it a condition. So you click on count if, and when you click on count if, this particular window comes up. Range is your input range. Remember, just like for what we did for our descriptive statistic analysis on our interval ratio, we need to tell Excel what range we're looking at. So I'm going to click on my arrow right there, and I'm saying I'm looking at this range right here. Column B, the marital status for all of my sample population, okay? And then I need to tell it the criteria. So when I click that on, then I'm going to say divorced, and I'm going to type in the word divorce. Okay, I type it in exactly like it is in the cells. So I want Excel to count the number of divorced in B2 through B15. And then I hit OK, and I come up with 3. Now, I can look, it's because I don't have a lot of a big sample in this. I can kind of double check and see. So I've got 1 divorced, 2 divorced, 3 divorced. Yes, they all came up, right? So now I'm going to do the same thing for married. I'm going to go to more functions. I'm going to go to statistical. I'm going to go to Countif. I'm going to go to my range, my criteria. I'm going to say married. And I'm going to say okay. I'm going to do the same thing for single. I'm going to go to single. I'm going to go to more functions. I'm going to go to statistical. I'm going to go to Countif. I'm going to go to my range. I'm going to say single. And widow, I'm going to do the same thing. Statistical, Countif, my range, the criteria, okay, so now I have actually all of my numbers in there. When you go to the Home tab, just to let you know, this is very much like Word, that you use the same things and you can center, you can wrap your text, you can format your fonts and your colors and all that kind of stuff. So your Home tab gives you a lot of options like you would find in a Word document. So here I actually have my marital status. And then I'm going to look, I need the total. So when I look at the total, then I can come up here and I can go back to my data. No, formulas, sorry. Go to formulas, go to math and trig, go to sum. That's going to add it all up. Highlight those 4, hit OK. And sum, I've got 13. Uh-oh, I've missed one somewhere, haven't I? Because I'm supposed to have 14 in here. And I've only got 13. So where did I miss? Oh, look here. I missed widow. It didn't come up with anybody because, look, I misspelled widow, W-I-D-O-W. And here I put widowed, W-I-D-O-W-E-D. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to highlight that particular formula. When I highlight that formula, you can see it up here in this window right here. So you can see I put Countif. I put my B2 through my B15, and I put widow instead of widowed. I can actually bring my cursor right there. I can add the ED. I can come and just click my cursor over to after that close parentheses and hit enter, and bam, it changes it down here, and it automatically changes the total. Once you put a formula into a cell, anytime you change the numbers that that cell is analyzing, it will change the outcome of your formula. So you don't have to retype everything. So that gives you just a little technique on how you can correct something or change something without having to redo everything. So there you go. I've got 14. That means I've got 3, 6, 4, and 1 in my categories. What is important when you're reporting statistical descriptive analysis, we don't report raw numbers. These are called raw numbers. We don't report our raw numbers because they don't have as much meaning as they do if we convert them to a percentage. So we're going to do that. So actually, how do you convert to a percentage? Well, you divide the number into the total to get your percentage. So the first thing I want to do right here is I'm going to highlight all of my cells next to this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to format my cells. I'm going to go to percentage, and I want my percentage to have 2 places, or I could say 0 places. If I do 0 places, then Excel rounds everything up. So let's do 0 places. So I want them to be formatted in terms of a percentage, and I want no decimal places afterwards. I'm going to say OK. And then right here, I'm going to type equals. Once you type equals, that tells Excel that you're going to be putting an action into this cell that you want to happen. So you have to have the equal sign in front of whatever you put in there if you're going to want Excel to calculate something. So I want it to equal, I want C18, and it comes down and it highlights C18, which is my divorce number. And then I'm going to put a slash because that means I want it to divide by C22. So now I'm dividing 3 by 14 to get my percentage of divorced individuals in my sample population of 14. Okay? So let's hit enter. And when we hit enter, 21% of those in my sample population are divorced. Okay? A trick. Go back up here, highlight the 21%, the cell that has the 21%. At the top, you're going to see that you have the formula. So I can always see the formula at the top. When you're doing your homework, you need to be sure and be using the formulas. Yes, we're using smaller sample populations, and you can manually go in and count and then enter into the cell. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you learning how to use Excel to do the analysis. So when I click on your cells, I want to be able to see your formulas there at the top. So right here, you can see my formula at the top. And what I want to do is I want Excel to always calculate the C column, and always the C22, but I want it to calculate the different rows, number 19, number 20, and number 21, without having to enter the formula individually each time. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to add a $ in front of C. What that says is Excel always use the C column when you're calculating this formula. I'm not going to add a $ in front of 18 because I want Excel to take each subsequent row and analyze that. I always want them to use C22. So I always want Excel to use C22. So I put a $ in front of C and a $ in front of 22, the column and the row. That tells me that Excel will not change that as I'm moving my formula down. So then I'm going to come over here and bring my cursor to the outside of it. Always bring your cursor to the outside if you're making a change within this window. Otherwise, it will mess up your formula. And then hit enter. Now I can go back. I can highlight that 21. This little square right here in the corner, that little dark green square, if you see that dark green square, you can just drag that down all the way. And bam, Excel calculates everything for you. You do not have to do it individually. The key is you put the $ in front of the row or the column that you want Excel to use in each formula when you drag it down. Just like that. So right there, I've got my right there, I actually have the description of my marital status for my sample population. 21% are divorced, 43% are married, 29% are single, 7% are widowed. So I can do this for each one of these nominal level categories. I do the same thing. How many males do I have? How many females? What's their residence? So I would come here, I would type in male, I would type in female, I would come here, I would go to my formulas, I'm going to go to more functions, I'm going to go to Countif, I'm going to go to my range, here's my range, I'm going to highlight all down the column for that. I'm going to go to my criteria, I'm going to say male. And I'm going to hit OK. And I've got 7 males. I'm going to do the same thing for females. Go to the range. Hit my criteria. I'm going to say female. Bam. I've got 7 and I've got 7. Now, I know that's going to be 50% and 50% just for Going through the exercises, I'm going to do my sum. I've got 14. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say equals G18 divided by G21. Whoops. Oh, G20, not G21. That was my mistake. There we go. And then equals G19 divided by G20. Since I only had 2, I just went ahead and did it that way. Change this to make it look like the percentages. There we go. I got 50% male, 50% female. I can put a border around that if I want to. So that is one way to get your descriptive analysis for nominal level variables. Okay, I'm going to show you one more action to do that will help you in breaking down some analysis in this. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to highlight all this. I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy it because I want to move it down here. Right click, paste, and now I have my data down here because we're going to do something else with it. You want to make sure when you're working on your statistical analysis that you always keep a clean set of data, one set that you do not change when you're working on your analysis, because if you mess up something, you've got to go back to that clean set of data. So in this homework number 2, when you create your client database, you're going to create that on one sheet, one of these sheets. You're going to title it Client Database, and you're not ever going to analyze on that. You're going to copy it to another sheet every time you do an analysis. You don't want to have to re-enter that data. If you're doing real research and you have your raw data, that's what we call your raw data. Your client database is your raw data. You have your raw data. If you start doing some analysis with it, and that's whether you're in SPSS or whether you're in Excel, and you start changing, rearranging your data, you can mess it up and you can lose your original data. So you always want to keep your original data set pure in a separate file, and then just copy it over anytime you're doing analysis in it. You don't want to lose your original data set. Otherwise, you could lose your whole research. So what I did was I highlighted those, I copied them, and I pasted them down here. Because one thing that we want to do is sometimes we want to know how many of we may want to know what the GRE score is and the descriptives of the GRE score just for our population, our sample population who are female, or just for the sample population who are male, okay? So what I can do is I can rearrange this so that I can do that analysis. I can come here, I'm going to highlight column C all the way down. So I've just highlighted male, female, not the label, just male through female, okay? And then I'm going to go to data at the top. And again, you see the data. Over here, you see sort. So I'm going to sort from A to Z, which means my female is going to be first and my males are going to be second. So I'm going to sort from A to Z. I'm going to click that. And it says, this window comes up and says, do you want to expand the selection? Yes, you want that. That's the default, and you want to make sure that that is clicked, because what that does then is it sorts everything around this. It takes everything with it, not just the column, but everything with it. So when we hit sort, okay, now we have all of our females at the top. We have all of our males at the bottom. Okay, and it took their data with them. So this particular female is sociology, GRE score of 309. She spent 5 hours a week reading. She's age 35 and she's married. it didn't just sort the column of male and female, but it took their variables with them, and that's important, otherwise you'll mess up your data. So always make sure you expand your selection to take everything with it. So right now I have this sorted in terms, I have my data sorted in terms of male and female right here. That's what I'm looking at, is the male and the female variable. So I want to know what is the GRE scores for males and females. So I'm going to go back to my data analysis, my descriptive statistics, because remember GRE is interval ratio. I'm going to click OK. Now my input range, I'm going to come down here to my new table, and my input range is just going to be the GRE scores for females. See, I've got them arranged together so I can grab just the GRE scores for females, okay? And I didn't include, I always forget my labels, so I didn't include that. My output range, I'm going to make my output range right here. All right, summary statistics is still clicked, and I'm going to hit OK. And so this is going to be female GRE scores. I'm going to do the same thing for males. I want to know what the male is going to be and how these are going to be different. So I'm going to click on my input range. Now my input range is just going to be for males. My output range is going to be right next to it. My summary statistics is clicked. Okay, so now I'm going to put male GRE scores. Okay, and looky here what I can do. I can just go back to both of these, and I can change both of these to the number, which is the 2 at the same time. I can highlight both of that. So I'm interested in my mean, my standard deviation. This one right here is the standard deviation. My median and my mode. My minimum and my maximum for both of these populations to see how they compare. Well, I don't have a mode on this one, so everybody made something different, scored something differently. Nobody scored the same thing. There's my standard deviation and my minimum and my maximum. Okay, my count, I got 7 females, I got 7 males. So the mean score for females was 292. The mean score for males was 285. The median for females was 303. The median for males was 300. There's a standard deviation, 21.57, 29.03. And the range is from 250 to 309 for females, 225 to 309 for males. So we can describe the differences here. We cannot make inferences about saying females are going to score higher than males. We can say in our population there was a difference with the females having a higher mean score than males. When we learn about inferences, we'll learn about comparing these to see if there is a significant difference, but we're not there yet. We're just describing, okay? So this is how, a brief review. This is my original data right here up in this area. This is how I'm going to go through, and I'm going to do a descriptive analysis for interval ratio, which is the age, the GRE score, the hours reading. I'm going to use my descriptive statistics under my data selection. I'm going to analyze my nominal level variables using my Countif under my formula section, and this is how I'm going to come up here, and I want to be sure and make it a percentage because that's how I'm going to report this. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to organize or categorize my variables based on the different categories, male and female. I can do the same thing here where I'm going to, let me copy this real quick. And I'm going to plop it down here right below it. Take out the highlighting. Get rid of my formatting and make it the same. And I actually want to categorize it by marital status. To do that, I do the same thing. I highlight the category. I go to data. I go to sort. I want to expand the selection. It's the default, but make sure it's done. And now I've got it sorted in terms of divorced, married, single, and widowed. So I can come back now and I can do my descriptive analysis on my other categories based on if they're divorced, based on if they're married, based on if they're single, or based on their widowed, by just including that data from those areas. Okay? That's the basic things that you're going to do for homework number 2. You're going to have nominal level variables. You're going to have interval ratio level variables. I'm going to post my examples of the class activities so you'll have those to look at. So you will see in this one where I've actually sorted everything by the categories in there. Here is my analysis down here at the bottom of it. Here's my age. There's my female, male age, GRE scores, female GRE scores, how I broke that down, hours spent reading. This is an example of how to explain your results. So I give you a example of how to report the results, because part of what we're learning to do is report our results. This is how to do a cumulative frequency. I'm going to save that for next week. I'm not going to have you do that this week. I'm going to save that for next week. So we may do, I might change up the homework for next week. So for this week, we're going to do this right here. We're going to look at our interval ratio level data and our nominal level data. So let's do that. And then next week, we'll look at doing frequencies, and we'll look at doing a pivot table, which a pivot table, once you learn a pivot table, it helps you. You don't have to organize. You don't have to categorize your data and change it and sort it. It'll do it for you. But we'll look at that next week too. So next week we'll look at cumulative frequencies and pivot tables. This week I want you to go through and do your statistical analysis on interval ratio level and nominal level variables for the homework. I will post my examples up there and the instructions for you.